Hi everyone, my name is Gabriel and this is the Hour of the Raven, your channel for everything Ravenloft, RPG, Dungeons and Dragons, and horror. Today we will uncover the past and secrets of the mysterious Sodo, the dread doppelganger who is the Dark Lord of Paridon. First, some brief clarifications. These videos and the next ones on Paridon are a partnership with my friend Jason from the Ravenlore channel. While my channel will do the traditional exploration of Paridon, revealing its history and secrets, and its Dark Lord Sodo, the Ravenlore channel will cover the macabre story of the Fang of Nosferatu, an evil artifact in the form of a dagger, which is intrinsically linked to the history of this domain and its mysterious killer, the Bloody Jack. If you are a fan of Ravenloft and still don't know the Ravenlore channel, I strongly recommend that you subscribe to the channel and check out his videos about the mysteries of Ravenloft. I will leave a link to the video about the Fang of Nosferatu and the channel in the video description. Before exploring the Zerishian cluster and the domain of Paridon, most of our exploration through the mist took place in the core of Ravenloft, and passed through domains that had already been covered in novels, adventures, and mainly in the Ravenloft Gazetteers, books that bring detailed information about the domains and their Dark Lords. I have always been careful to present Ravenloft in my videos, taking into account official sources. However, in the case of Paridon and other areas not previously covered by the Ravenloft Gazetteers, I intend to expand these sources of information. Paridon first appeared in the first box of the setting as the domain of Zerishian, encompassing not only the metropolis but the area that surrounded it. In the Grand Conjunction, the mists advanced over these lands, making the domain just its metropolis, surrounded by the mists, and integrating its underground areas into the domain of Tibor. The domain was further explored in the adventure Hour of the Knife, which later received an unofficial sequel on the Secret of the Cargatane website, called Shadow of the Knife, and received mentions in the Ravenloft's Red Box and in the book Domains of Dread. In the third edition, the book receives a mention in the main book, but the domain was not covered in one of the published gazetteers. The Ravenloft fan community wasn't going to let the set rot in oblivion. The Fraternity of Shadows website, the best known and most organized fan site in the setting, has published netbooks that continue the Gazetteer's proposal, exploring in depth the domains of dread. One such Gazetteer, published by the Fraternity of Shadows, addresses the Zerishian cluster. In the video description, I will leave the link where you can download this netbook. The next videos about Paridon will be based on the official material, the Shadow of the Knife adventure, and the Zerishian Gazetteer. Are you ready? After escaping the horrors of Timor, we finally emerged from the sewers to reach the busy streets of Paridon, and search for a way to return to the core and resume our search for Dr. Rudolf von Richten. However, our efforts are interrupted by our curse of lycanthropy. When the full moon rises in the skies of Paridon, we are transformed into lupine beasts and wreak death and havoc on Paridon. We have few memories of this night of horror, but we woke up the next day in dark clothes and covered in blood. While trying to escape an angry mob, we are captured by a malicious reporter who wants to extract our story from us and bring a big scoop to his newspaper. Using our wits, we lured the reporter close to our cell bars, grabbed his collar, and slammed his face against the cell. Our violence makes the journalist lose consciousness, and we search his pockets for the keys. Finally free from the cell, we took the notes he wrote and fled the scene. Once again in the streets of Paridon, we sought refuge in an abandoned house to spend the night, and in the next morning we shall search for a way to leave the city. Out of curiosity, we analyzed Thompson's documents and notes in which our interview was recorded, and discover that we also carry a complete dossier on the mysterious figure of Sodo, given to the journalist William Thompson by someone who signed it simply as the Invisible Man. Hour of the Raven. Ah, you awaken again. Welcome back from the land of the dead, my friends. Tell me, can you still feel the cold kiss of death on your souls? I grant you again the gift of life with my touch, and now you must serve me. Oh, you insist on fighting me. You cannot hurt me, you fools. For you, I am more than a god. Don't worry, however. My brutal touch may have returned you to life, but the beautiful elegance of a blade can quickly return you to the cold embrace of death. Sodo is the Dark Lord of Paridon, and it's a dangerous and sadistic dread doppelganger obsessed with power and cursed. The character of Sodo is a Dark Lord that adapts several horror tropes into a single character. He is a doppelganger, a sinister double capable of stealing someone's identity, instilling fear and paranoia. But he is also inspired by the mysterious Victorian-era serial killer, Jack the Ripper, and by the figure of a crime mastermind of James Moriarty, the great rival from Sherlock Holmes. Sodo is a dread doppelganger, capable of reading thoughts and stealing identities, in addition to taking on different forms, including that of other monsters and the natural form of other doppelgangers. However, he is cursed with a constant mutation of his form. He can take on whatever appearance he wants, including emulating a target's clothes and main objects he carries, but his form changes randomly depending on his emotional state. When he is calm, he can maintain a single form for up to 1 minute, but the more agitated he becomes, his various forms begin to overlap without control, including monstrous form, making his appearance frightening to behold. His condition imposes on him to act from the shadows, controlling his network of minions and clans of doppelgangers from behind the scenes. He is polite, and his shrewd and brilliant mind usually plans his actions a few steps ahead, but he is sometimes overcome by violent, cruel, and sadistic impulses. His bizarre appearance makes him stealthy, and he prefers to avoid direct combat, surprising his victims. Knowing the streets and alleys of Paridon like the back of his hand, his pursuers often suffer terrible and unexpected accidents. Sodo has exceptional attributes, with superhuman strength, as well as being agile and resistant, and also is extremely intelligent and wise. His constantly shape change does not allow him to use any weapon efficiently, and his preferred method of attacking an individual is with the strength of his hands, strangling his victims. In addition to being able to detect and read the thoughts of others, Sodo is also able to absorb a victim's feeling through touch. He is a sadist, addicted to cause and absorb pain and suffering in his victims. However, the Dark Powers has cursed him with a healing and regenerating touch, and he is unable to choke his victims to death. All those who are strangled to death by Sodo awaken shortly afterwards, revived with vague memories of a nightmare with the shifting and monstrous face of a sadistic, strangling murderer. Those who dare confront Sodo in combat, however, may encounter a virtually invulnerable foe. Thanks to the dark murder rituals committed every 13 years with the Fang of Nosferatu, Sodo is invulnerable to any weapon, even magical ones, that do not have a +5 bonus. and has 90% of protection against magical effects. Sodo is the secret master of Paridon, the leader of a network of doppelgangers infiltrated in society, and who rules as much through subterfuge and strategy as through fear and violence. In the past, he used the series of Paridon as his secret home, but since the Grand Conjunction, he has been expelled from his former lair, and now roams the abandoned buildings of his metropolis, accompanied by his main allies. When Sodo decides to close the borders of his domain, the mists that surround Paridon prevent anyone from escaping, and all those who try to escape through the mists find themselves back in some other alley in the city. He is unable, however, to close the borders of Paridon and Timor, and the passages to the underground are always open. But what hides the past of this dread doppelganger? What crimes and misdeeds did this brutal killer commit to attract the attention of the dark powers? To understand the perversion and evil of Sodo's crimes, it is first necessary to delve into the mysteries of the race of creatures we call doppelgangers. These creatures are divided into clans, but have an extremely organized society, where the collective rules over the individual. Their survival depends on the secrecy of their presence, and large groups learn to help each other to protect their secrets. The hierarchy of doppelganger society was established by age, and the elders command the different clans, coordinating their actions. Sodo was born into these doppelganger clans in some unknown material world. He quickly stood out for his physique and wit, but found himself limited by the rigid structure of his race society. Greedy, he resented the hunting rights and territories that were distributed by his elders, which were distributed according to the criteria of age rather than competence, and viewed this system as unfair and corrupt. Willing to do anything to achieve his ambition, he began a terrible plan. A doppelganger could imitate the form of any humanoid race, but could not reproduce the true form of another doppelganger. Sodo secretly obtained a hat of disguise, an artifact that allowed him to simulate even the true appearance of another doppelganger. After obtaining this object, he began murdering the elders of his own race, working his way through the hierarchy to achieve power. More than that, he used this hat of disguise to sow discord between the previously united clans, bringing intrigue, conflict, and internal dispute into doppelganger society. When the chaos was complete, Sodo murdered the last remaining elder and used the hat to assume his true form and take the leadership. He claimed the position of Grand Master and implemented changes in doppelganger society through fear and violence. Now, the clans fought among themselves, and the dominance of one clan over another was imposed by fear and force. Sodo proved to be a treacherous, sadistic, and violent leader, and he delighted in the torture and suffering of others. In his moment of greatest glory, however, when he finally achieved his dream of power, the mist enveloped the nation of Zerishian, transporting it to the demiplane of dread. The transition to the land of the mists isolated the nation of Zerishian in the mists, and made Sodo the Dark Lord. However, all this power came at a high cost for Sodo, who was doubly cursed. In addition to reading minds, Sodo became able to absorb feelings from his victims through touch. Sadistic and addicted to pain and suffering of others, he needed to murder someone every 5 days, otherwise he will be racked with uncontrollable pain. He strangles victims to absorb their pain and despair. But the dark powers has also given him a healing touch, and his victims always recover from this strangulation, as if waking up from a strange nightmare. His most terrible curse, however, affected him in his most terrible and cruel tactic. Sodo became an even more powerful dread doppelganger, and was capable of assuming even monstrous form, and naturally replicating even the true form of others of his race. However, he found himself unable to maintain a shape, and his body underwent constant and abrupt transformations, sometimes with shapes overlapping at a dizzying pace, depending on his state of emotional agitation. Suddenly weakened in his position of power, Sodo knew he could be challenged in his position, and became an agent of the shadows. Aiming to secure what he had achieved with his own efforts, he sought to acquire artifacts of power to maintain his empire. His first acquisition was death scarabs, metal beetles that, when placed on someone's skins like brushes, could not be removed except by their owner. If not removed within 7 days, they burrowed deep into the victim's skins to reach the heart and kill them instantly. This measure to ensure the loyalty of his closest servants was not enough for the paranoid Sodo, however. He needed something more powerful, and set his minions in search of other artifacts of power. The dark powers answered his prayers, however, and his servants brought him the mysterious Fang of the Nosferatu, a powerful evil artifact, a blade that bestows supernatural powers on its user. Every 13 years, 6 victims need to be killed on 6 consecutive nights, exactly at midnight, and Sodo could absorb their emotions and energy in the knife, becoming invulnerable. Once the ritual was completed, Sodo would not age and would remain practically immune to most weapons and magic. Despite the artifact of great power, Sodo had no way of using it on his own. His constantly changing appearance and the changing shape of his hands prevented him from holding the blade with precision, and he needed to use his servants to commit the murders. Thus, he used his doppelganger's agents, wearing leather gloves, to murder the victims and to give him the dagger after the murders, so that he may become invulnerable. Every 13 years, the cycle of murders plagued Paridon, and the legend of the terrible murderer Bloody Jack began, whose true identity is never revealed. After the ritual, he became invulnerable. Sodo rules from the shadows, and those who challenged his power found a cunning, treacherous, and indestructible adversary. His true condition and identity is known to few, and legends began to circulate about the thicker flame, a reference to the image of faces that looks like a constant flame above the head of this mysterious crime lord. For centuries, Sodo dominated Zerishian, consolidating his reign of terror and power. With the Grand Conjunction, however, his dominance over the lands of Zerishian was drastically reduced, with the mist invading the domain, swallowing everything and suffocating the city of Paridon. The society of Paridon had to adapt to this new reality, and the power of Sodo was now also challenged, with its domain being reduced solely to the city of Paridon. Perhaps, seeing this moment of instability and weakness, one of Sodo's main allies decided to challenge his master. In 742, the doppelganger Roja, who used the identity of the aristocrat Sir Edmund Bloodsworth, was tasked with using the Fang of Nosferatu as Bloody Jack and carrying out 6 ritualistic murders. Discovering the truth about the artifact, he decided to betray his master and use the dagger for his own benefit. He almost completed the cycle of murders, but was stopped by a group of adventurers before he managed to complete the 6th murder and ritual. These adventurers not only stopped Bloodjack, but they also exposed the presence of doppelgangers infiltrating Paridon society. Despite his network of intrigue being threatened, Sodo managed to free himself from the adventurers, and once again recover the dagger to restart the cycle of deaths, ensuring his new period of immortality. Roger escaped with his life and was captured and tortured by Sodo. Sodo had long tried to find a cure for his curse, which he believed to be a degenerative disease. Seeking a cure for his illness and curse, he used Roger as a guinea pig for several alchemical experiments, which resulted in Roger's body being turned completely and permanently invisible. The infamous Roger managed to escape and now, driven mad, is obsessed with destroying his rival Sodo and exposing the doppelgangers in Paridon. Nicknamed the Invisible Man by the press, he enjoys the growth of his fame and the terror he causes, and is a terrible rival for Sodo's power. During the course of the 13 years between 742 and 755, Paridon also began to experience contact with the domain of Timor, which was now underground in the city. Rumors began to circulate about the change in the city sewers, and about hideous, dark and grotesque creatures emerging from the sewers to hunt. The terrifying Marikids, grotesque creatures that inhabit Timor's subterranean domain, made Paridon their new hunting ground, and their Hive Queen also infiltrate agents, partially taken by Timor's twist on the surface, to act on her behalf. A secret war is now being waged by doppelgangers and Marikids, and Sodo's agents attempt to silence any evidence of these attacks. Sodo is increasingly paranoid and violent, and knows that he now needs to fight to maintain his power. The tension only increased as Bloodjack's next round of murders began. Fearing a new betrayal from his own agents, Sodo hired the service of Emil Bollenbach, a mad scientist, to help him create a terrible doppelganger golem, made from the bodies of other doppelgangers, which could shape-change and which fed on the victims' brains to steal their identity. A group of adventurers intervened to stop Bloodjack's murders at the hand of the golem commanded by the scientists, before the 6th murder was committed. However, in the chaos of the ensuing battle, the dagger was stolen by the Marikids and the Hive Queen of Timor. Unable to descend the depths, Sodo had to enlist the help of the adventurers, who retrieved the artifact from the depths. Once again, he got rid of the adventurers and retrieved the Fang of Nosferatu, managing to restart and complete the cycle of murders that would make him immortal and invulnerable for the next 13 years. Sodo is invulnerable, but he has never felt so at risk and surrounded by enemies. He doesn't trust the doppelgangers that surround him, and wages an incessant battle with the Hive Queen. He knows that she will try at all costs to take the Fang of Nosferatu from him, his great source of power, and prepares for a coming confrontation. As if all this wasn't enough, the treacherous Roger, the Invisible Man, is now working against his interests, exposing the doppelgangers infiltrated in Paridon society and spreading the truth about Sodo. Violent and sadistic, Sodo becomes even more dangerous when cornered. We spent the night awake in an abandoned building, reading the terrible revelations about the mysterious and dangerous Sodo, written by the Invisible Man. The dossier in our hands also contains countless pages, revealing in details the biology, society, and origins of the doppelgangers. Our curiosity is great, but so is our fear. If any of Sodo agents find us with these documents, we will be quickly eliminated to silence the secrets we have in our hands. Paranoid and fearing everything and everyone around us, we left in the mist morning of Paridon toward the docks and looked for any ship that would accept to take us away from this city. We found a vessel that accepted us as crew, despite our low experience, to help with basic tasks on the ship. We are only reassured of our safety when the vessel leaves the docks, sailing towards the Mistway for the Sea of Sorrows. During the monotonous crossing of the mists, we take advantage of the time we have to delve into the dossier on the doppelgangers and discover the mysteries about the feared dread doppelgangers. Join us, subscribe to the channel, and let's unravel the mysteries of the dread doppelgangers. But first, in a brief break in our exploration, let's look at the adventure Vecna, Eve of Ruin, where Wizards of the Coast present an adventure to celebrate 50 years of D&D, and returns once more to the Ravenloft setting, with a plot which involves 4 Dark Lords from the classic setting.